as we head over towards the French Grand Prix, we have got a lot to talk about, and that is going to be about Season 7. The provisional calendar has officially been released. The FIA have announced the provisional calendar for next season. We will show you the provisional calendar in just a second, but we're going to go and have a look at the main set of headlines before we showcase it, which is that the Mexican Grand Prix circuit officials have been sacked and have been replaced by a new set of officials to help bring F1 back. The FIA and Formula 1 have always wanted to return back to the Mexican Grand Prix, but the very sour relationship that they had with the circuit officials also had sour relationships with Mexican sports in general. So in order to help Mexico bring the sport and Formula 1 and other types of sports back to the circuit, they've gone ahead and removed these circuit officials that were in charge and put in new ones, and now they're going to get what they want. Now, the other two headlines that we have got from this is that the Chinese Grand Prix is set to be the first round of the season and kick off next season. Of course, the Chinese Grand Prix has not been on the calendar for quite some years, and it's set to now be the first round of the season taking place instead of Bahrain. Bahrain is still on the calendar, but it is set to be a little bit later. In fact, it's only round number 2. And the French Grand Prix, where we're heading to right now, is currently not scheduled to be on the calendar at all, which is a little bit of a surprise to some. But now we're going to go and have a look at the provisional calendar itself to stop you guys from waiting. So here it is now on your screens. It's set to be the Chinese Grand Prix round of 1, followed by Bahrain, Abu Dhabi, Canada, USA, Mexico, Vietnam, Singapore, Azerbaijan. Then we have got Monaco, Netherlands, Silverstone, Austria, Italy, Brazil, Japan, and Belgium. This is the provisional calendar. This is all subject to change. We could see some tracks not make it onto the calendar and swap with some other circuits. It is all up for debate. And where these races end up being is not officially confirmed in terms of their calendar date either. But that's what we've got so far for now. That is the Season 7 provisional calendar, and it looks very, very interesting, with 17 rounds set to be the way for next season. But we'll have to wait and see what tracks do end up making it on and what tracks end up having to fall away last minute. As we look then at the race news heading into this weekend, Ferrari once again on top in practice with Mercedes and McLaren also in very close proximity of Ferrari. A team that were not in close proximity again were Jaguar, as they were suffering very badly from serious tyre temperature issues. The French Grand Prix circuit with these new spec Formula 1 cars is definitely causing a lot of problems for a lot of the teams, and especially Jaguar. Lando Norris believes that he can get a top 10 finish in his Aston Martin, as he feels like his race pace is very much a competitive rate, and that's the same with Valtteri Bottas. He's very, very happy with his car and believes that he's set for a good weekend. Mercedes-Benz, though, are still fearing for their race pace. Despite the fact that they were very close on the qualifying runs, they still fear that their car is just not good in race trim and still have plenty of work to do. But we'll have to see if that is the case then as we go straight into the French Grand Prix. Yo, what's going on, guys? It is Foxydude here, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the F1 Journey for you guys today here on the channel. Today we're here for round number 11, which is the French Grand Prix. If you end up enjoying today's video, feel free to drop it a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here as well. And before we get into today's episode, if I don't sound as normal as I do in commentary, your boy's been kind of ill all week, and yeah, we're still a bit diseased. However, we are still recovering, and I feel good enough to do this commentary, otherwise I wouldn't have done it in the first place. But anyway, we can see then, we're going to go on to our final lap here around Circuit Paul Ricard. Now, as you can see, going into the last two corners here, we actually found a lot of time here on our personal best lap. We're currently in the 11th place now on the grid. As we go towards the start-finish line here, we're about 0.4 of a second up on our personal best lap. So where's this going to put us then onto the grid? As we come towards the start-finish line, it's P8. Here we are then, guys. It is round number 11 of the F1 Journey Season 6 here for the French Grand Prix, which could well be the last time that we see the French Grand Prix on the F1 Journey calendar for some time, as at the moment it is not on the provisional calendar for Season 7. Now, as we have a look then at the weather, it is a very hot and sunny day, and we are expecting no rain at all around this circuit. But the 3.63 mile circuit has got plenty of places to get overtaking done on the pit straight, or you can do it on the back straight heading up in towards the chicane. Apart from that, it is a flurry of high-speed corners with not really many slow-speed and technical corners bar the entrance towards the back straight. And we've got the soft, the medium, and the hard compound tyres, with the soft being about 0.6 of a second of a lap faster than the mediums, and the hards being about 1.3 seconds a lap slower. The biggest issue that we're going to have a look at is thermal degradation. I believe it was showcased in the race news that the tyre temps are something to be concerned about. If we have a look at the grid then for today's race, it is the man on pole position who won the last Grand Prix. Carlos Sainz is on pole for this race, ahead of Lewis Hamilton, who lines up alongside him on the front row of the grid for Mercedes-Benz. George Russell is third on the grid ahead of Daniel Ricciardo, so it's a good qualifying session for Russell. He's been struggling a little bit in qualifying as of late with Leclerc and Reese alongside. P5 and P6 for them too. Next is Max Verstappen, and then we qualify in 8th place for this Grand Prix. It's not the best, but it's certainly a decent spot to be in. Sergio Perez is P9 for Audi, and Rosberg is in 10th. My teammate Sam outside the top 10. However, he does get a free choice of tyres to start the race on. He's alongside Bottas with Verline and Ocon next in the grids then. Verline in the Porsche, Ocon in the Renault. Mason Wood down in P15 for Red Bull, Lando Norris in P16 for the second Aston Martin car, the first one should I say. Hulkenberg is next in P17 alongside Sebastian Vettel. Hulkenberg in an Aston Martin sandwich. There's the 2 cars then line up on the back row of the grid. Gasly and Noah James rounding off the top 20. And hopefully we'll have a good race, but we'll just have to wait and see. It is the French Grand Prix. In real life, it's terrible, but we'll wait and see. As you can see then, I was having a little bit of a faff around with the strategy, seeing if I could potentially try and do like a one-stopper and, you know, do something on that lines, but we'll have to wait and see how the race pans out for us now. So we go on to the grid then. For the start of the French Grand Prix, we've got 5 red lights, and it is lights out, and we go here to start the French Grand Prix. It's been a good start from us. Very nice launch, actually. Beautiful getaway there. Already getting alongside the 2 McLarens now as we go towards the first corner here now. Breezing up towards turn 1. Sainz gets a great start. George Russell here attacking Hamilton. A little bit of contact between them. We actually make some contact as well with Daniel Ricciardo, but I had to cut turn 2 just to make sure that I could actually get through in one piece. Ricciardo, though, goes back down the inside. Reese then lunges through on the inside as well there. Completely catches us out by surprise. We'll take a wide line now into here to try and get the better exit, but we unfortunately didn't straighten up the car quick enough, getting a little bit loose then, and now Leclerc comes back at us, so that strong start that we had pretty much nullified. We've only gained a net place in this opening phase of the Grand Prix now, onto the slipstream of Charles Leclerc. You can see he's actually closing in on Reese and pulling away from us here. Of course, the McLarens and the Ferraris are much quicker in a straight line than the Jaguars. Funnily enough, our Jaguar car is not brilliant in a straight line. It's very, very quick in the corners, which is something that really suits me, especially on the F1 games. I much prefer having a slightly slower car in a straight line and being able to just throw it into the corners. Perez now all over the back of us here as we go now through in towards the end of the middle sector here, and you can see go a little bit wide. Perez in fighting through, goes down the inside of us, so we're going to lose another place here, but we have the inside line for the next left-hander. That allows us to stay in front of Perez, but already the top 6 are beginning to pull away, and the field spread between them and me is already apparent, with Sainz pulling away. George Russell in 2nd place then, Lewis Hamilton is in 3rd, I believe it is Daniel Ricciardo in 4th, Reese in 5th, Leclerc 6th, we're in P7, but already falling behind as we're now leading a train of cars at the end of the first lap then. So not been a good start for us now. Let's have a look at the race start though and find out how everything went along here. So once the lights went out, Sainz got a beautiful start actually. Really, really good for him. He breezed us off the line there, and I think we probably got the best start in the field, but Sainz definitely just had an amazing start, and everyone else was scrapping about. Sainz was just pulling away and just doing his own thing. So we knock over that bollard there. And eventually here, Ricciardo now is going to come through down the inside here on us, and he makes that move 6. Reese lunges his way past Leclerc, and then also past myself in all of that. So Reese then with a beautiful move. Like I said, we tried to do a swooping maneuver here, but I just didn't quite have the rear grip to do that, and unfortunately, we then lost out to Leclerc. This is on board with Carlos Sainz now in his start, and just enjoy it, really. Lights go out and bye. That's literally all he's done. Lights out, see you later. You can see that we definitely got the best start because we started in P8 and we're already right behind. But Sainz just got a beautiful launch and was just off into the distance. And it's a lovely, lovely drive for him. And he's off and away. Hamilton's start, though, was a little bit less impressive. So as Hamilton gets away here, Sainz has gone off into the distance now. And all of a sudden, he's got to focus on George Russell, who's going to be on his outside line into turn 1. Eventually, you'll see his front wing right there. And he then actually barges his way through. So very nice driving then from George Russell to make that move stick. And he gets on with it. Lap 2 of the Grand Prix now, and you can see that we're trying our hardest to keep up with the McLaren in front, but you can just see the car sliding about, and already the tyre degradation, the thermal degradation is coming right into effect now, as Sergio Perez jumps into my slipstream, pulls out of my slipstream, and pulls ahead. A very easy move for Sergio Perez. A bit of a lock-up, though, into the chicane, but it's not enough for me to counteract and attack Perez again. We're now down into 8th place, back where we started, and you can already see the tyres are on 100 degrees, and the front left is on 102 degrees, so we're already beginning to cook the tyres at this early phase of the race now. On board here with Nico Rosberg, who's attacking Verstappen now on the start-finish straight here. We're just in front of this little battle here. And you can see then Rosberg just pulls alongside Verstappen, goes down around the outside on Max. Max tries to hold it on in there. Rosberg, though, is going to have to fight a little bit more than that. Verstappen, though, loses the place now, and unfortunately for Verstappen, it's going to get a bit worse. Bottas in the Renault, looking in behind, trying to go around the outside here of Verstappen. He makes the move stick then. That's allowed Sam now to come through on Verstappen around the outside. Sam's going to have a difficult line here. Sam on the medium compound tyres as well in all this. Unfortunately, though, for Sam, he doesn't actually quite get the move done. But for Sam, he's going to have a lovely exit now. And he can just use the DRS to his advantage if it's enabled. Yeah, I'm not actually sure if it is. I think so. As Sam then breezes past, it is enabled. So Sam has got that to his advantage. Verstappen going even further back now because here comes the Williams. Not the Williams. What the hell am I on about? The Porsche car of Pascal Wehrlein. I've been ill all week and still forget car names. Wow, that's a bit odd. Nevertheless, though, Verstappen does lose that pace to Pascal Wehrlein in the Porsche, and all of a sudden he's got Ocon coming at him, so Verstappen is really falling back now in this Grand Prix. The other Porsche car of Hulkenberg is fancying a run at the Dutchman. I wonder if he's got a problem of some sort. Sam there, right behind the other Renault car of Valtteri Bottas, as his car starts to work well for him. Lap 4 of the Grand Prix, and yeah, we're really struggling now in this Grand Prix. The tyre temperature situation is not looking good. I think we're going to show it in a second there. The front left is on 106, and I really can't cool the car down. You know, it's very hard to do that as we now press onwards in this Grand Prix. We're just going to have to do the best that we can. We've got a yellow flag in front, though, so that's going to give us a little bit of an upper hand. It's one of the McLaren cars that's out of this Grand Prix, and is that Daniel Ricciardo that's out of the Grand Prix? I think it is. Daniel Ricciardo is out of the French Grand Prix, and McLaren's reliability woes continue to hit them really hard in this Grand Prix, and it was Daniel Ricciardo. He was in a very strong P4, I think he was, in this race. He might have even overtaken Lewis Hamilton on that, but Leclerc DNF'd from the British Grand Prix whilst in the lead in the last episode. And in this race now, it's Daniel Ricciardo that's retired from the Grand Prix. So that's a nightmare for all of them as we're on board here with Daniel Ricciardo. So this was just before Ricciardo DNF from the Grand Prix now. So just a little bit flashback here. Reece actually managed to pass him. So I wonder if Ricciardo had a little bit of an issue, which then eventually just caused the engine to explode because he was already dropping back. And that's what we saw the last from Daniel Ricciardo. On to lap 5 of the Grand Prix now, and there's a massive bit of oversteer, if I've ever seen it, and now we're under pressure here from Nico Rosberg in the Mercedes now, as we use the ERS and use the straight line speed of the Jaguar to stay in front of the Mercedes. Mercedes don't have a good car in a straight line, and that's helpful because at least our car is better than Rosberg's in a straight line as we now go through in towards the last sector here, and we're really struggling now. The tyres are just completely overheated. I cannot get them to work, and the gap between myself and the rest of the field is too big now to really start thinking, you know, we're in a good position. Sam, in fact, is right behind me, and Sam could even do a one-stop in this race, so yeah, it's not really looking good for us as we now peel off into the pits here, and we're going to go ahead and do a two-stop strategy, and we're going to go on to another set of the soft compound tyres. Hopefully this time the other set of softs don't overheat, and we'll be absolutely fine, but yeah, not a good first stint at all. We were just falling away from the field. It wasn't necessarily, like I said, it wasn't down to pure pace. It was just down to tyres just overheating. Just couldn't get them to work. So, good stop from the Jaguar boys. And we're back out again now in P something or other, very far down the order. You can see we've got a brand new set of soft compound tyres. So perhaps, maybe like I said, you know, when we were at the Dutch Grand Prix, our soft compound tyres were very susceptible to the tyre temperature issue as well. And then we pitted, obviously, again, we pitted for the hard compound tyres in that race, and we were fine. So hopefully, now that we've taken off our original set of soft tyres, we'll be fine on these soft tyres. If not, then I've made a strategical error and I should have gone to the mediums. But time will tell. Speaking of time telling, Sergio Perez gets past Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton's qualifying doesn't really do him any justice, as unfortunately he is dropping further down the order. For us though, yeah, the car is handling terribly right now. And we've got Nico Rosberg, who just made his stop as well. So we did actually stay in front of Rosberg. Not for much longer though, because here he comes with DRS now. And I was kind of giving myself a bit of false hope, I suppose, in this race. Like, you know, something could come true. But really, at the moment, we're just in a complete slump. I've got absolutely zero pace. The tyres temperature is just through the skies right now. And really struggling as we're going on board here. I believe this is with Sam now. As he tries to attack Bottas on the Renault with the medium compound tyres. And he does so quite easily, actually. He goes down around the outside, of Bottas, and then he's going to have the inside line for the next part of the chicane. He can just shove Bottas a little bit wide there. Sam is through, and he is now up into, I believe that's a net P1, actually. Sam in this race. Meanwhile, for the two stoppers now, this is on board with Reese now, who goes around the outside here of Verstappen, I believe. No, it's Mason Wood, sorry, in the Red Bull, as he's on the medium compound tyres, doing a one stop in this Grand Prix. And now all of a sudden, Russell gets past as well. So Reese, in all of this, actually, has managed to find a way past George Russell, which is impressive. Lap 8 of the Grand Prix now, back on board with us here, all the way down in 17th place. Wow, awesome. You can see that we're stuck behind one of the Aston Martins and Rosberg here. But now we're going to go for a very cheeky move here around the outside and going to try and do it on the Aston as well. That's a lovely bit of overtake in there as we brake nice and late around the outside. I don't know which Aston Martin that was. I think it was Vettel. Tries to come back at me though, and it was Vettel. And we get that overtake done. That's a lovely bit of overtake in there. So even though that we've got no pace in this Grand Prix, we can at least have some fun and go for some of those overtakes there. Vettel drops a little bit further back. And then speaking of Nico Rosberg, he's now all over the back of us once again here on lap 9 of the Grand Prix now. And he's going to be looking to try and pass us very, very quickly as we now go down into the last corner here. And let's unfortunately lose his position to Rosberg. Unfortunately, like I said, we just don't have any pace. Rosberg with the DRS now is going to come through. He's going to go to the outside line of turn 1. We are going to go a little bit defensive here against Nico Rosberg just for our own fun. And in fact, we actually held on to the position there. So fair play to us. To hold off the position there against Nico as we breeze down the straight now, and through there is Noah, I believe, in the Ford. So we are catching up to Noah ever so slightly, so we might be able to use Noah as a little bit of a buffer to get close to him, to then use him as a guideline to stay in front of Rosberg. That's so wide through there. Like I said, the tyre temperatures are already skyrocketing at this stage of the Grand Prix. Rosberg now with the DRS though is going to come back at us on the long back straight here, down towards the inside line of the chicane. This is going to be a very simple move for Nico Rosberg to execute. We are going to try and fight it though, and we do just that though. We're going to go around the outside of Rosberg, defend the position, and that's us staying in a whopping P15. That's depressing to be saying. Now we've got to catch up to the Ford car. Hamilton though is only just up ahead, so Lewis is not exactly having the greatest of races himself here. Lap 11 now of the race, and we're on board here, trying to overtake the Ford car of Noah James, literally just hovering all over the rear of his car right now as we try and find a way through. We are going to be in DRS range of him. Rosberg is going to be in DRS range of us, so that's something to be worried about as well as we now go on to the back straight here. Let's see if we can get close enough. He's actually got a much better exit, did Noah James, than I did. But I don't even need to use Rich Mixture because I know that I've got Slipstream and DRS. I know Rosberg's closer to me, but eventually you can see here we do manage to get through down the inside. We try it though, a little bit half-hearted, but eventually around the outside we go. Noah does try to fight this one back, but Rosberg now is going to have a little bit of luck as we go wayward off the track there. And that was basically because I paused in-game in the race, and then it, you know, flung me off the circuit, so it's like, oops. But we eventually do get through. Rosberg is going to make his way past Noah James, actually, which is a little bit annoying. I was hoping that Noah could potentially hold on for a little longer, but annoyingly he doesn't. So Nico there does indeed get in front then, and he gets in front on lap 11 here now, as we now go on to the end of this lap here. Rosberg now is going to try and claw over the back of me here, and you can already see how slow I am, because Nico, despite getting held up a little bit by Noah James, is now right on my tail. So yeah, it's meant absolutely nothing for us, because here he comes now with the slipstream, with the DRS, and I was just like, is there any point in even fighting this? I'm in 14th place, I've got 2 more laps until I've got to go into the pits again, and I'm now down into P15, and I'm just not in the points. I'm just having an absolute nightmare of a Grand Prix. So on board with other drivers now. This is one of the Ferrari cars. I think it's Reese. I could be wrong though. I can't see the number. If you can, then fair play. But I mean, there'll be a graphic up at some point anyway, unless I forget to do so. And it is Reese. So I was kind of right. That's nice. So we've got Reese, Russell and Leclerc then. A little bit of a close scrap now as Reese tries to go very heavily around the outside here of the Renault car there. And he does make it stick there. So nice move from Reese. And that gives him a little bit of a buffer now between himself and George Russell. Reese was under pressure for quite a lot of the Grand Prix. For us though, we're up into 11th place now in this race. But we do need to make our stop. And come into the pits now for our final stop of the Grand Prix really. And go on to set the medium compound tyres. And pretty much just drive to the flag. There's nothing really more I can say. What I will say though is yes, in terms of the car setup, I could have easily just turned down the tyre pressures, put them to their minimum, and we would never have an overheating problem. But at the end of the day, I just feel like running with a setup, especially in the F1 journey, when I'm modding everything, the game is much easier. It just is when you mod. So for me, what I didn't want to do is I didn't want to give myself an advantage by running with setup. So throughout the entirety of the F1 Journey series, I always just have a default setup. I just literally, as soon as I load into the game, I just click go out on track, and there we go. Instant default setup enabled, and that's me done and dusted. So, yes, I could have easily turned down the tyre pressures, and we probably wouldn't have had an overheating problem like we are at this moment in this race. But at the end of the day, it would have just made things too easy. At the end of the day, we're having a tough Grand Prix, and I kind of don't really mind that, because it means that the championship can remain fair. Because if I ran with a setup, it would be even more unfair. So that's kind of the cool thing there, is we actually got past Mason Wood in all of that. The medium compound tyres, I can say, felt fine. They didn't overheat. So it was definitely an issue running with the soft compound tyres. Big lock up there from Esteban Ocon in the Renault there, as he's trying to defend heavily now against Sergio Perez in the Audi, but it's not going to be much use for him because Ocon really doesn't have a good power unit. Perez got a much better power unit at the back of the Audi. Hamilton's going to try and go for it down the inside now as he tries to make his way through, and he does so there. So Ocon losing 2 places there, which is not good for him in the French Grand Prix. His home race as well, of course. And now we're on board here with good old Pascal Wehrlein versus, I believe this is Reese again, because I can see 2 cars behind, which are very reminiscent to George Russell and also Charles Leclerc. Reese then making the move stick on Pascal Wehrlein, and he is through. And then here comes Charles Leclerc now, who's going to make his way through. I didn't actually catch George Russell making his move on Pascal Wehrlein, but we did manage to catch Leclerc doing it. So took him a little bit longer, but he got through. And then now we're going to go on to board here for the battle for the lead. So Sainz now has been on that 2-stop strategy. Sam, remember, my teammate, was on a 1-stop strategy. He leads this Grand Prix now after starting P11, but he's on the hard compound tyres. Sainz here on a fresh set of medium compound tyres with the DRS enabled. Sainz goes through and back into the lead of the French Grand Prix. A lovely easy overtake there for Carlos Sainz. Sam's staunch defence comes to an end. In fact, I don't even think he defended at all, otherwise I would have got some more replay cams, but he didn't. So Sainz is back into the lead of this race, and here's Hamilton now attacking Hulkenberg here for an extra position, and he does so quite nicely actually in a very unorthodox location to make that overtake stick. He'll be a bit susceptible to DRS, but I think he's got a better exit there. He should be absolutely fine on this back straight. He may go under a little bit of pressure later on, but he'll be alright, I think. Lap 20 of the Grand Prix now. We're back on board with ourselves here. We're currently in 13th place, currently not scoring any points, but we're going to try and make amends and just see what I can get out of it. So we're here now, trying to overtake, I believe this is Lando Norris, and we're going to go to the inside line, into the chicane. Lovely late braking manoeuvre, and like I said, we just set a personal best first sector. So, like I said, I feel comfortable on the medium compound tyres. In hindsight, I should have gone soft, medium, medium, and cut my losses that way, and I would have been fine. But, you know, you live and you learn. And now we're catching up here to the back of Esteban Ocon in the second Renault car now. You can see my personal best has already been better. We're on a 24.7 now. As my fastest lap of the race. We're going to use up, in fact, we've literally got no ERS left here, but we're going to attack Ocon now, and we're going to go through and just breeze past him. And yeah, definitely should have done this strategy instead. It was clear that the soft compound tyres was what's causing me the downfall. But just up ahead, actually, is the second Porsche car of Hulkenberg. So we could just get ourselves a point here. Lap 24 of the Grand Prix, literally a lap later, I've caught all the way up to him. So it just goes to show that sometimes you get it right, sometimes you get it wrong. We're going to go for it here on Hulkenberg. Unfortunately, we're not quite close enough into the chicane, so I'm going to set myself up. But you can already see the amount of pace that I've got over him, and we're going to use up our ERS, use our rich fuel mixture. We don't have much ERS or fuel even left to use, so I'm kind of going into the negative on both fronts here. But we go down the inside here, getting a very close run here versus Hulkenberg, and now we're going to put the car into standard fuel mixture, take the inside line, and that is the overtake done there on him. And now we're just going to send it to the flag because we're not close enough to the Mercedes cars to make an impact on them, which is a little bit of a shame. But there we go, that is race over. Like I said, disappointing Grand Prix for us today. We just got caught out by the fact that the soft compound tyres just continued to overheat. Nothing we can really do about it. Like I said, hindsight, we should have gone onto the medium compound tyres in the second stint and we should have been okay. But it is what it is. We'll cross the line. It is P10. It's a bad race. It is what it is. That's kind of where we stand with that. But for Carlos Sainz, though, it's another brilliant race for him, and Sainz is the new man on form. He takes the win here at the French Grand Prix. His back-to-back race wins now for Carlos Sainz, and he also got the fastest lap as well with a 1 minute 23.7, so even my 1:24.7 was sort of second off what Sainz was doing. Sam, though, credit to my teammate Sam. He finishes in second place. Remember, he started in P11, did a one-stop strategy medium to hard, and he managed to get himself second place, so congratulations to him. Reese finishes in third. A good race actually for Reese, considering he started a little bit further down the order. He was also behind the likes of Russell and Leclerc in qualifying, but he managed to make it stick and get onto the podium for a double Ferrari podium. Russell finishes in P4 for Audi, just in front of Charles Leclerc in P5. half a second separating them two. Reese actually managed to pull away. It was only at 0.2 of a second behind Sam, so it was nearly a Ferrari 1-2. Sergio Perez, good race for him. P6 for Audi, nice job. Valtteri Bottas, a stunning race for Renault. Manages to pick up P7. That's a brilliant race result, beating both Mercedes cars. What it's quite clear to see is Mercedes, especially with Lewis Hamilton, do know how to get the best out of their car in qualifying, but when it comes to the race, they're just not up to it. And then we finished down in P10, obviously, with just the 1.5 minutes off of the Victoria, we'll go with that, Carlos Sainz. Second half of the table, Hulkenberg is in a P11, he'll be alright with that. Esteban Ocon in P12 for his home Grand Prix. Lando Norris, good race for him, finishes in 13th place for Aston Martin, with Verstappen in P14, Mason Wood in P15, Noah James finishes in 16th place, Vettel in 17th, ahead of Pascal Wehrlein in P18, Gasly in P19, and then Daniel Ricciardo, the only man to DNF in the McLaren, still problems for them. Now, let's have a look at the Drivers' Championship here. Now, you can see that Sam retakes the lead of the Drivers' Championship on 168 points now, ahead of ourselves on 152 points. So Sam with that second place, and with me only getting a point. The gap was only a point between me and Sam heading into this race, and now it's 16 points in Sam's favour. Reese is now on 142 points and is very much in the championship fight with myself and Sam. Sainz has also put himself in contention. Ferrari are making a little bit of a fight back against Jaguar, which is going to be fascinating to see how that pans out. George Russell, P5 for Audi on 107 points now, with Daniel Ricciardo on 96 points. What could have been if he didn't have reliability problems? Rosberg is on 66 points with Hamilton on 64. Leclerc is on 62, and then Perez is on 58. The next race is the Monaco Grand Prix. Constructors' Championship-wise, Jaguars still lead the way on 320 points, but their gap has been cut down by Ferrari, who are now on 263 points after an impressive set of races. Really has been helping them in the Constructors' Championship. Audi are on move up to third actually now, ahead of McLaren, so their race actually got them in front. They're on 165 points, McLaren are on 158, Mercedes are on 130, still in that fight with Audi and McLaren. Red Bull are on 48 points, Renault closed their gap between them and Red Bull, they're on 26 points, and Porsche still have 13 points. But with that being said and done, let's go have a look at the post-race notebook, see what the teams and drivers had to say after the French Grand Prix. So here we are then at the post-race notebook as Sainz claims back-to-back wins for Ferrari, and Sam managed to recover from P11 on the grid to finish in second as Tom slumped to P10. Now, Mercedes-Benz were left scratching their heads after another tough race. Mercedes seemed to be able to get their car working in qualifying, but just can't get it working in the race, and it's something that's really puzzling them as they're encountering a very, very tough season. Now, an interesting statement coming out from Tom. He stated that he was extremely angry with Jaguar after his request to go onto the medium compound tyres in the second stint was denied by Jaguar. He says that he felt like the mediums would be the way to go. Jaguar denied that, stating that every time that they've had tyre temp issues, as soon as they pitted onto a fresh set of tyres, those seem to just fade away. Whereas Tom countered and said no, if you went onto a harder compounded tyre, it would definitely work better. But that was a debate that seems to be rolling on in the debrief. And Ferrari have issued a warning to Jaguar, saying they are ready to take the title fight to them, as they now claim back-to-back wins and are the team on form as they close in the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship. Will Ferrari continue their hot streak next time out in Monaco, or will Jaguar be able to fight back and claim yet another race victory? We'll have to wait and see next week, but for now, guys, I'm out. Take care all. Peace.